I got the thong song stuck in my head for some reason. It just randomly popped up. Let me see that thong, baby. Da thong, da thong, thong, thong. I don't know why it's in my head. It just randomly popped up. Welcome to Dad's Talk Film, the show where we take clips from a different movie every show and just talk about how it relates to life, family, dad stuff, and whatever else comes to our mind. Today's a little bit of a special day for me because we are doing one of my favorite movies, and we'll hope that it goes well, but we are going to be doing Enemy Mine. But before we get into that, I would like to pass it off to Sean Marcus once again to find out what's the status with Ryan Reynolds.
Well, as you can see, this is how long we've been asking Ryan to come on the show. We've yet to hear from him at dadstalkfilm@gmail.com. Come on, Ryan. I know I keep screwing up on his picture. I don't know why. It seems like if you type in Ryan Reynolds, it should be easy to find his picture, but I'm not having much luck. So here he is. You know who he is.
The one and only
who we want.
Ryan Reynolds right there.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I mean, maybe if we get it right, maybe we'll actually get him on the show because,
yeah,
I don't know.
He's probably feeling a little insulted, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe he should have a more unique name, not just another Ryan in the world. No, just kidding. You can't help that. We're all named by our parents and stuff.
I know.
Oh, man. No, but we love you and want you on the show, so join us. We'll let you pick a movie. It could be your movie, it can be whatever. It's just we'll watch it and we'll chat about it together intimately.
So, Enemy Mine. Why don't you break this down for us?
Yeah, so
as you can see, I've got some thoughts on this movie.
Right? I know I had to convince Sean Marcus to do this movie, and I was like, yeah, it's for sure a dad movie. We got to do it. And then I watched it, and I was like, man, the dad part of this is very minimal compared to what I remembered. But the dad part must have been so heartfelt to me that it was a dad movie to me, and it still is. But it's a 1985 classic in my book, and unknown by most. But it's
give us the synopsis.
Yeah, Enemy Mine. We have Dennis Quaid starring as Willis Davage. Davage. So basically, there's a war going on between the humans and this alien species called the Drax. The humans are basically saying that the Drax are taking over a lot of different star systems using squatters' rights. So we start the movie off with a battle between the humans and the Drax. The story is a survival story and a story about developing friendships amongst enemies. So war going on. Willis gets a little bit overzealous on this battle. He has a Drac ship in sight, is trying to take it down, but the Drac is outmaneuvering him, and they get so close to the atmosphere that their ship basically starts to overheat from the atmosphere. But he takes out the ship crashes, and so do they because he pushed it a little bit too far. Willis, he is of course on a mission because he can see where the Drac ship is located, and he is going to go finish the job, make sure that Drac doesn't survive. That's kind of how the movie starts. That's where we go with it. And
well, I gotta say, I know this is your favorite movie, but I put this in the category of the TV show The Greatest American Hero. I loved it as a kid, but watching it again, I'm like, dear God, that's terrible.
Hey, did you struggle with this movie?
Oh man, did I struggle. This is a terrible movie in many ways.
Dang, I love it all the way through.
The special effects is terrible. The writing is terrible. The acting is so, but it does have a good message. I give you that.
I don't know. Maybe I have the nostalgia.
No, yeah. And, I've got movies that I loved as a kid that Stacy's watched, and she's like, But this movie, terrible, but nostalgic, I'm sure, in ways, and
Man,
it's got a good message.
I mean, I think there's just so much I appreciate about this movie. Like, still to this day, I love the use of practical effects, the costume work. Aside from when the Drac is basically naked and swimming in the water, like the bodysuit itself looks a little weird to me. I think that's the only time I was a little bit weird about it. But he has like these little things on his head that like breathe in and out, like as he's going. I was like, there's a lot of cool details.
Yeah.
And I was just convinced through the movie that you forget that there's a person in that costume, at least for me.
No, the prosthetics, the makeup, all that was really good. And the little gills here or whatever that
those
is.
Those things always gross me out, kind of. This little circle thing here is like.
Yeah. No, that was good. But that was it's like they spent all of their time and money on the outfit, and everything else went to super low budget. Because, I mean, you watch a Star Wars movie and it still holds up. I mean, and not just nostalgia, like it still looks super realistic.
Man, you're going to tell me the trash compactor monster like holds up? Like, and it like competing trash compactor monster, whatever. People are going to get mad because I don't know the name of it, but whatever. A trash compactor monster compared to weird little snake thing coming out of the ground. Like, that's a pretty equivalent to me. Maybe not when its head pops out though, but no, you didn't find the like weird creepy snake thing? Like it's actually a tongue, but I don't know. I was sold. Loved it. Love all the practical effects. I even wrote a note on that first little shell creature that comes out. Like, I love this stuff. Just like weird little practical effects. It's a 1985 movie. What do you expect? I mean, they all can't be Star Wars.
No, I guess not.
But even like the ships flying around, I know it looks cheesy and all that, but I love it. It's just one of those things. It just has a place in my heart. And,
yeah. It's funny that they had like space travel technology, all this stuff, yet they're using a regular gun. Like, he's got a regular gun with bullets, and the other alien has a space laser gun.
Yeah, he does have like a little thing.
Yeah, he had like a little
weird design.
A little 9 or something.
I mean, he did have like a regular gun. I did notice that. And I was like, hey, you guys could have like dressed it up a little bit, like make it a little bit more futuristic. But I think I got over it just because it's depicting the differences between humans. Like, you can relate to all that stuff. And then you have the alien gun. You're like, oh, that's obviously an alien gun. Otherwise, it's just futuristic and everybody has the same thing. But that's just me protecting my heart in my movie here and all that. And I don't know, I loved all the set stuff too, even when it looks cheesy when the trees and stuff are falling over. There's just, like,
so bad.
I just loved it, dude. But I think overall, there's a cool message in this whole movie, which is just accepting others. And then I think if we're going with the dad route on it as well, there's a sense he essentially becomes a godfather to a baby Drac, but we can get into that a little bit later. I kind of want to touch base on the social aspect of it, and with war and everything. I feel like this is just maybe my perspective of it, but in war, we always depict ourselves as the good guys, and that we tell the stories of another race or another, like in this instance, another species. And we say, oh man, they're just ravaging our star system and they're just taking over everything. And so that's what we're taught. And that's what soldiers and stuff are all taught. And
in terms of today, I've heard like the Russian soldiers going into Ukraine that they have no idea. They were told that they're like, you guys are going to be liberators. They're going to welcome you and all this. And they're like, oh, they're shooting at us. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I think in any country, they are always told that they're the good guys. We can always go back even to Nazi Germany, and we look at it and say, how could you ever think that, or, that the Jewish people were bad? It didn't happen instantly. It happened over time. And then we can even see it today in America with segregation that happens and the arguments and hate that is, that happens when a big world event happens and it's a specific group of people, like a small group of people or a couple. There's a lot of people that will take it to the extreme, and anybody of that race is all of a sudden an evil person. And I think that's an issue. of course it's an issue, but I think it goes, every country's got the same message. I would be really interested, and I have been interested in seeing, and maybe, I don't know, how long did you grow up in Sweden? Did you grow up in Sweden?
Yeah, I was there for 7 years. Yeah.
Okay, so you didn't go through like school
No.
and all that.
Well, first grade. It was first grade.
Yeah, well, I've been really curious lately to see how history is portrayed or taught in other countries.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see how America is portrayed. When I went to Greece and I was getting my tattoo in Greece, I was talking to the tattoo artist, and he goes, yeah, he's like, honestly, he laughed at me when I said, in all of our history books, America is always like the good guy, the hero. We're always doing the good things, trying to be the best. And he goes, in our history books, you guys are pretty much the bad guys. So I'd be really interested in seeing that. And it's kind of eye-opening to look at it that way, as, we only teach the things that we want to know, and that we want our people to know.
Yeah.
So I think there's a level of omitting or propaganda in any country, no matter how much we want to think there isn't. But I think we aren't born to hate any specific race or people or anything. It's something that we're all taught. Well, if you do have any like racial bias or hate, or if you know of anybody, it was taught to them at some point. Is kind of what I believe. And so this movie kind of portrays that.
Along that line, it's interesting because, in America, it's the racial thing is like, Mexicans, you hear it on the news all the time, and it's just like blah, blah, blah. And it's interesting because I've been to Mexico, I don't know how many times. And when I've gone there, like, they're racist against, the El Salvadorians and the Venezuelans and this, and like.
Yeah, I think every country has some other enemy or somebody that, have to look down on. So it's all just stuff that's taught to us over time.
Yeah, the fact that every country, every society, there seems to be racism that's taught over and over. It's strange. It's so strange. I don't know. Like Polak jokes. Like, where did that even, like, I just thought about that the other day. Like, where did that even come from? Like, why did people tell those? Like, why do people assume that the Polish people are dumb? I don't
Weird
know.
Stereotypes. And
yeah.
Somebody said something, or something happened in history to where now we're associating all of those specific people towards that stereotype or hate. That goes for Middle Eastern people and, the Chinese people and, Black Americans. And you can pick any race and there's going to be some sort of weird stereotype. That stereotypes are never good. They don't ever have any positive things. I think on an individual level, when we talk with different races, different people, we just learn that we're all just people. We never chose what race we're going to be. We never, in this case, they never chose what species they're going to be and all that. So I think this movie really does a good job at portraying that. You have Willis, who is super all about the war stuff, and he's just determined to take down Drax to the point where he's never seen a Drac before, doesn't know what they look like. He's only been told what they look like and what they sound like and all of that. He mentions that, like, in the middle of it. He just has only heard the terrible stories that he's been told, which is enough for him to go hate a whole nother species and want to kill them.
It's and it was interesting that the Dracs were all, dark skinned.
Yeah.
And everybody else, they were all white skinned. And then when they showed them as slaves, all the slave drivers, they were all wearing like the Southern slave hats and they had the whips. And so they really tied it into the North-South kind of slavery scenario.
There's really a race thing going on. And I think that's what I really enjoyed just about this movie is, whether you liked it or not, it has a cool story and pacing to it. And especially within Will's perspective. I mean, both of them, even Jerry, that's the Drax name. Eventually we learn, Willis ends up calling him Jerry because his name's something weird and crazy that
Jariba, or I don't know, something like that.
So he's like Jerry and whatnot. But, even Jerry has a hate towards humans as well, because he looks at us as like we're just slaughtering people as well, you know. So they
Yeah.
kind of have a similar point of view, and we're all fighting on, or they're all fighting for the same thing, but they're just being told the same thing and hating each other for that. But I really enjoyed that they got kind of forced into this survival situation. You know, they're both on a planet that they don't know. They both don't speak the same language. And so Will goes to try to kill Jerry, and it kind of turns against him. But eventually meteors start hitting the Earth. And so they were put into a very
Not the Earth, the planet.
Oh yeah,
We're
the
on
planet.
Earth.
We're not
They were
on.
another
That's
planet.
right. Yeah, yeah. Meteors start hitting the planet. Jerry unties Will, and then they hide in a cave. And this is kind of like the turning point of where they realize that they are going to need each other to survive, at least in the moment. So
I did like that they were able to learn each other's languages within like 2 hours.
yeah, I mean, I was watching it this time too, and we don't know this alien species. Maybe they just learn really quick.
It's
But-
artistic licensing.
Yeah, Jerry is like a linguistic master or something because he picks up on English so quick.
Yeah.
But for the sake of the movie, it was good. So that way we don't have to sit here and read subtitles
Yeah.
or look at them confused talking to each other the whole time.
But yeah, I mean, like I said, there was plenty of good lessons to be learned from the movie. If we learn how to work together, how to put aside differences in order to survive and to better your situation, and you know, just get along with others and find their point of view, see why it might be different, and everyone's got a point of view, and it's usually right, even if it's different.
I think the point that brings them together is Will is searching for more wood or something, he wasn't searching for more wood. He needed to go get food, so he's going to go hunt. And then he ends up falling in that little pit, the sand pit. A little snake thing comes out, which I think looks super menacing. Honestly, that thing like floating out and just like ready to strike. Grabs his leg. Jerry hears him screaming, comes and blasts it. And I think at that point they kind of come together a little bit more.
Did every sci-fi movie back then have a sand pit with like an alien that ate you?
I mean, let's see. When did The Princess Bride come out? Because man, they have the sand where they fall in the quicksand. I mean, there was no
Star
thing.
Wars.
Star Wars has it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Those
I
are
can
the
name
three.
anymore. Those three.
Yeah.
So pretty much every 80s movie.
Yeah, because there was 3.
So the Dracs basically are, what is that? They're like a frog or something. Isn't there a frog species that doesn't need a mate? They just have babies.
I think dragonflies are asexual, I believe.
I'm pretty sure I've seen dragonflies banging before.
Oh no, that's right.
They fly around and do it.
Male seahorses are the ones that have the babies, and there's one insect that can switch. I thought it was dragonflies.
I don't know. Either way,
yeah.
Dracs basically are both sexes in one, and eventually Jerry becomes pregnant. Will goes on this mission to go see if he can go find help because they've been staying in this shelter for a long time. I don't know how long they've been there. He goes to find help, but then he finds out that the scavengers come, which is a human group of people that actually take Dracs and put them towards slave labor, which looks like a mining type like facility, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, I'd assume that's what it is.
Yeah.
So it just kind of shows that, again, the humans are pretty terrible and we take aliens and enslave them, which again, like you mentioned, we're talking about the South and all that stuff. It's bringing slavery into the mix. It's just kind of crazy that we had slaves and we thought of, black people as lesser humans, which they're showing in this is looking at Drax as being lesser beings. Basically, it's saying white people are terrible. So
we kind of are.
yeah. Yeah, like I said, I think the main point for me was just seeing the personality shift for both, the kind of dropping those racial stereotypes and realizing that, everybody's born into what they're
We're
born
all
into.
species of some sort. We should all get
And
along.
I think there's a cool lesson in all that. And I can relate to that too. And I think why I like it too is my great grandma, I was there for the first time a black man ever entered her home. So my grandparents, I'd go to my grandparents' house every weekend. We had an awesome neighbor over there. His name was Avery, and super awesome guy. Still remember him to this day. I was a kid, but we were going to clean up my great grandma's house. She smoked indoors, as a lot of great grandparents probably did. So we're scrubbing the ceilings and stuff. But I remember it being a big deal because this was going to be the first time that my great grandma ever met a black person in her life, especially while having them over to the house. Because dark history in my family, my great grandpa had a chest in his room that apparently he even told my great grandma never open this chest. When he passed away, they opened that chest and he had full on KKK robe and stuff. So there was obviously some hate there. And it's also why my great grandma probably never had a black person in her life ever. And I just remember her being like, man, Avery's like the nicest guy ever. And it was just a cool, strange.
How old was Avery?
Like, probably late 30s or something. He wasn't too old or anything. I don't know how old my great grandma was. She's my great grandma, so she's old, or was old. And, but it was just a cool moment that even as a kid, I got to see and realize that, man, she had all these preconceived notions of what, other races were, and to see that all get washed away in a single moment was really cool, to the point where he had gone over there multiple times after that. She just accepted him, and it was just like crazy. So I think that's also too why this movie I relate to, because I got to see that moment happen, see kind of this hate go away, and see somebody realize that race is just something that we created just based on where you were born or the color of your skin. It makes no difference like who you are. We're all just people. And to see that happen with my great grandma was something that I'm not sure many people get to see, because you would think that she would just be so caught up in her ways and her mindset, but to see somebody like that change was cool. And I think it was a cool lesson for me to see that happen, to just realize, man, we shouldn't be hating other people for that. And, she was probably taught that through her parents and, my great grandma being straight up a racist. And, I'm sure my great grandpa had awesome qualities, but that was just a bad part of his personality in life too. Cause my dad talks great things about my great grandpa because, we don't get to see that side. Obviously, it was a side that he hid a bit because he kept his cloak and stuff in a chest that he said never to open. So I don't know. I never really got to meet my great grandpa's grandpa.
Maybe he was ashamed of it.
He could have. So it was just part of his life, maybe, that eventually he grew out of too. I don't know. I never knew him. So
maybe he kept it as a reminder to know of where he came from.
Yeah, I would like to
hatred wise, and grew out of it, or maybe, I don't know. Who knows?
I'd like to think that that's what happened, but who knows? Yeah. I mean, like I said, he was only alive long enough to see me born and get to see me as a little baby and all that. So there's little videos of us, but yeah, it was kind of shocking, for my dad to see that, because my dad didn't grow up like racist or anything either, or prejudice against other races. And yeah, I think that's just something that why this movie probably connects to me so much is I got to see kind of the same thing Will went through and get to see that melt away. I got to see that melt away in my grandparents as well. So that was super exciting and touching, I would say. So I don't know. Have you ever had any, did you have any experiences with that? Great grandparents or anything? I don't think many people do. So I don't know if you can relate.
No,
on that level.
I can't say that. I mean, usually grandparents and great grandparents, you're like, oh geez, what are they saying? It's like, you can't say that anymore. And, my dad's side, his parents died, you know, fairly, I was still in, well, no, I was in college. I think it was sophomore year or something like that. But we didn't get to see him much. We moved to America, so we didn't get to see him much. So, but I don't think there was ever, a bad bone in their body. They're really loving and accepting, as far as I know. So luckily,
You just had like super happy, healthy upbringing, man. You're like, my parents never argued in front of me. My grandparents were just loving, all that. I'm over here like, yeah, my parents argued all the time. And, my great grandpa was a racist, like the worst type of racist you could be. But I think it's just all
you turned out.
I mean, it's all lessons that I try to help other people learn too.
But you came from that background, you turned out like that, and I came from a loving, great background, and I'm a racist serial killer. So
perfect. Yeah. So you're saying what we should be doing is American Psycho for the next movie, so that way you can relate too. But it goes to it's just the cool development of Will coming from a very hateful place to learning that, like, hey, Jerry's a really cool guy. We get along. We got this cool little shelter together. Humans are kind of dicks. I don't want Jerry to go see that, so he comes back and tells him, I didn't find anything. But Jerry's pregnant at this time, and that's why he couldn't go on this adventure to find better things. So you didn't like the movie, but what did you think of the movie all the way up until this point? Because it's halfway through the movie we get to where Jerry's actually pregnant. Did it make you think about anything specific or anything? Was there any moments that you related to on a human level?
The whole, adopting him, being the godfather basically to Drax's kid, and saying, I'll take care of him, and since he died during childbirth, and raising him, and teaching him the Drax way and the lineage, and showing him the differences between humans and the Drax. I think that was touching to show that he could go so far from hating them to raising one of their children as his own.
But the cool part about it all is just seeing the excitement and kind of Will kind of melt even with this little baby Drac in his hands and all that. There's just an instant love, I think, there, because he eventually, he loves Jerry. He's like a great friend, and they develop that relationship. But I just love the father aspect of this movie, which is why I thought it was more of a father movie than it actually was. It shows him excited, having unconditional love for another being, but then also it shows like the struggles in the beginning of trying to figure out how to feed this baby. And
it's not just raising another species baby, but raising another species on another planet, trying to figure out how do I feed this other species. What do they eat as a baby? Like, what can I feed them? Where he's like, this is all we have. You eat this, and he's like, nom, 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 nom,
Yeah. He chews it up a little bit, and then I don't know. I think I'm just going to be just as confused when our baby daughter is brought into the world. It's like, how often do I gotta feed this thing? How come it's not eating? What do I do? The baby Drac grows up pretty quick, and they show a cool montage of him like just enjoying like raising him. They're like running off into the fields and all this stuff onto the planet. And
you notice how happy the planet looked then? There was like a beautiful lake, and they were just like
But I mean, I don't know. I enjoyed that because it just shows that he's took a turn in his life. Shows the joys of fatherhood is what I put down in my little notes, just in that whole scene. He teaches them how to play football, even though it's only the two of them. Trees are their linebackers essentially, and all that. And I just am looking forward to the point of where you get to play. Well, I get to play with my daughter and have those moments of where you're just letting her win just so you can see the excitement on their face and stuff. So they really do that in the movie as well. And then I was wondering, I don't know if either one of us can really relate to this, but so for example, if you adopt a child and you're adopting like a black child as a white family, there's going to be different struggles, I guess, with that, or that I've seen happen, different cultural aspects. And I think they show that in this movie, which I thought was very interesting because obviously they look different. And Zamis looks at Will like he calls him uncle, but his his only parent that he's ever known, and he's realizing that Will has 5 fingers and Drax only have 3, and he's like, "How come you only have, or you have more fingers than me?" So he has to kind of explain where he came from, and I just wonder if that's how it is with adopted children and as well, you know.
Yeah, no, it was sad and touching when the baby was like, "Well, I wish I had your face," and then he had explained like, "No, like you're beautiful the way you are. Like in the Drax society, you look,
you're not too bad."
Yeah, yeah.
From the only single other Drac he'd seen in his life. I mean, besides the slave ones that he saw getting whipped and stuff. But I just love that he's so protective of this relationship and wants Zamis to grow up not hating. And also Zamis, like the scavengers come back to the planet and Will goes and checks without Zamis and sees the slavers there. But he's just trying to protect his kid from humanity, essentially. But it's also, you get to see that Zamis only knows Will, so he just assumes all other humans are going to be friends. He even mentions it in there. He says maybe they're like friends with the Drax and they're just working for him. He's like, no, don't ever go over there. And of course, kids being kids, you tell them not to do something. Zamis ventures his way over there and gets himself into some trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, and then Davage has to go rescue him, and he did.
Yeah, so that's when we kind of, I mean, it kind of goes into the Taken mode at this point.
Yeah.
Will goes to try to, catch Zamis before he gets there, but then there's these 2 bad guys. And I don't know. I don't think we do this enough in movies now, is the 80s bad guys. They're just so distinct in these movies. They just don't do it very well anymore, I don't think. You don't have, just very distinct enemies like you did in RoboCop and all of that. Like, we just don't develop those. I mean, again, it's kind of cheesy and whatnot, but these guys are clearly bad guys, but they're pushing Zamis around. Will takes his arrow, puts one right through the throat, and then ultimately he ends up getting shot by the other guy and left for dead. Somehow one of his own ships comes and picks him up. I was like, all these time, I'm assuming he's been on this planet for years. I think he had been. It was like 3 years he was gone.
And then ta-da!
Yeah, all of a sudden,
he's dying.
Yeah, so it was a little bit cheesy. But, his dad instincts kicked hard. As soon as he was up and ready to go, he blasted out that air hangar, no matter who was telling him not to, went back to go save Zamis from there. Then it just turns into another really action-packed sci-fi movie, which, I don't know, I just have a place in my heart for. They have all these weird little battles. A guy gets his body grinded up in some, I don't know, rock grinder with blades or something. And obviously Zamis has talked to the other Drax about his uncle, because they are apprehensive about him when he meets the Drax and all that, but then quickly realize that he's the uncle and eventually saves the kid.
Yeah. Happy ending. Brings him back to his home planet.
I thought that was a really touching moment, though, for me, is that he stuck to his word for Jerry. He knew how important reciting the lineage was to this high court, or whatever it's called. I'm just going to call it a high court. I can't remember what it was. And he kind of helped connect the human race and this specific, at least for him, they accepted him into their culture to the point where they added Will's name to the lineage, so he kind of cemented his place in their history, which I thought was really cool and touching, because I think in the end he deserved it. He put in all this work, and he wasn't trying to. He was just doing good by his kid, which essentially it's his kid now, and trying to be respectful to Jerry and kind of make sure he upheld those promises.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, it was cheesy and terrible, but it was good at the same time. So.
But I don't know. I mean, that's about all I have. I mean, unless you have anything. It was just a movie that I really hold into me. I thought that was cool social dynamic with good perspective on how propaganda and racial hate is something that is taught and learned. How raising a child, whether it's adopted, whether you're a godparent or not, that even beyond blood, love will exist towards a child or humanity. And so it's just a movie I wanted to do. I love it. I love it for the practical effects. I love it for the cheesiness and the development of
we've all got like I said, we've all got those terrible movies that we love, like me, Tremors.
I mean, I think Tremors is great too, though.
Yeah.
So
every time Tremors is on TV, I have to watch it. Well, I would say, since this is your favorite movie ever, you need to come up. You need to come up with the rating scale for this one.
I'm gonna go with meteors. Ooh,
good one.
Meteor strike.
Just how many meteor strikes is this movie? The more, the better.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go based on that scene. There was probably 35 meteor strikes that happened. So out of 35 meteor strikes, I'm gonna go with a solid 25 meteor strikes. I'm gonna be bunkered up with my new buddy Jerry and just chatting away, learning new languages, and just talking about life.
And I'm gonna give this 5 meteor strikes.
You're just I'm out of here. I'm done with this. Meteor strike, going straight to the cave. I'm bunkering in, closing my eyes, waiting for it to be all over.
It gets 5 because of the message.
And that's only it.
Yeah.
Has no other redeeming factors.
Well, the movie itself gets -10. The message gets 15, so that brings it to 5. It averages out.
Perfect.
But,
we have drastically different opinions on this movie. I'm just happy that you allowed me to do this movie and entertained the idea, and I want you to be able to pick one of your terrible movies at some point, and we will make sure we scratch that itch for you. That way we can talk about it. And this is probably going to be the worst viewed movie, but at least I got it out of my system. So let's make sure that this is the most viewed movie. So
there you go.
Make sure you hit that like button, which I think is over here. I don't know. It might be over here. Whichever way this camera faces. Like, subscribe, hit up all the social media accounts. Hit up the Venmo, because that the Venmo and Patreon, because this one is the one that convinced you to love us.
Mm-hmm. And if we can make this movie entertaining and poignant, then
I think you guys should go watch it just to prove Sean Marcus wrong that it's actually an amazing movie. So only leave comments of love for this movie.
Well, it's my turn to pick a frame, pick a movie. So boom. Do you know what this movie is by this single frame? If you do, comment below. And make sure to follow all our social media, because every couple of days we throw up a new frame for you to guess what the next movie is going to be.
Yeah. So boom. Until next time, till the next movie. See you guys then. Peace.
Have a good one.